Welcome everyone to another session of DIY Professionals. This is your DIY professional, Golda Keys, and we have today with us Andre Buchanan. Now he is a young professional who is an auditor, and we are going to find out from him what it takes to be an auditor, just some of the highs, the lows, the struggles or challenges he may have had. And we hope that today you'll be encouraged by this interview as with all the other interviews. So welcome, Andre. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Golda. I appreciate it.
All right. All right. So tell me, you are an auditor. What is really an auditor? Because a lot of times we hear, oh, I'm an auditor. Yes, I go into companies and I do auditing and stuff like that. So what does it really entail being an auditor?
Right. So I think the best way to explain it is that we go in to examine financial records of companies to kind of let stakeholders who are interested in the company for whatever purpose, whether that stakeholder is a customer, a banker, an investor, to let them know that what the entity has shown in your books, in their financial statements, that is true and that is correct, or if it's not, right? So that's basically what we do. We just go into companies, we examine their books, and then we give you an independent assessment of what is there.
Okay. Why did you ever want to go into this kind of job? I did accounts in high school. I hate numbers. It is a lot of work, and I can just imagine reviewing financial statements of companies to be a lot of work. Was this something that you thought was like, yes, man, this is my dream job. This is exactly what I want to do. You know, what kind of drew you into this line of work?
Right. So I generally like numbers. So that's something that I'm interested in. And when I went to university, I did a degree in accounting. So it just felt like the natural thing to get into auditing after finishing my university degree. But my passion, I would say, is more in investments. So that's where I do plan or intend to venture into eventually. But yes, I started in auditing. I thought it was a really good way to get well-rounded knowledge on accounts, understanding businesses, working, crunching numbers, and understanding the business from the financial perspective. So, that's what kind of led me to doing auditing specifically.
Okay, interesting. I am very interested by this, and it seems as if being interested in numbers and investments, that's not really a young people thing. A lot of times young people talk about, yes, I want financial stability, I want to be able to have assets, but a lot of times we're not taught in school about investment, we're not taught in school about money management, right? And a lot of times, young people find themselves in situations where they are not learning how to manage their money, and they are not really doing investments. What's your take on that?
Right, I definitely agree, and it should be incorporated into schools a whole lot more in terms of, especially as it relates to money management, because I think a lot of our young people and older people as well are making good money, or they're making decent money, but because they have poor money management skills, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just about how much you make each month; it's how much you save back, right? How much you invest, because that is what drives your net worth. And net worth really speaks to your ability to take care of yourselves if for whatever purposes revenue stop coming in, you lose a job. How can you maintain your standard of living, your expenses each month, and for how long? And that's really a net worth. So it's very important for young people to be able to manage money well. And I think that is such an important skill that is lost in the school system and needs to be incorporated.
I hear you mention net worth, and a lot of times when we hear net worth, we think about the artists, the actors, we think about those persons who are, would have been influencers in society. We don't think about our own network. And so that's really something to think about, you know. And you mentioned that it's important for you to save, to make your money work for you. Interesting, interesting. Andre, you are a very quiet person from ever since I've known you. If you were to describe yourself in one word, how would you describe yourself?
You know, let me see. Let me see. Reserved. I would say reserved. Reserved. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Is that by choice? Or is that just why? Why reserved?
I think it's my natural personality. It has evolved from being shy initially, um, to be now reserved. I mean, not afraid to speak now, but I just tend not to. But I definitely am very talkative around people that I know, you know, and my friends and family members that I'm comfortable with. Then I'm a lot more
Mm-hmm.
talkative, right? But just I guess just the nature of me, I tend to be more quiet or reserved.
Okay. Would you say that being an auditor, going into um, investment and that sort of a thing, is something that a person who is reserved might be a good line of work? Does your job entail any sort of customer service, dealing with persons, managing staff? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Right. So, contrary to popular belief, because auditing is a field under accounting, we think that we're in a back room crunching numbers. But I
Mhm.
have to tell you, one of the most crucial things about being an auditor is being able to have good customer service relationships, customer service
Okay.
and relationships, because what's going to be key in your job is that you're going to need certain deliverables from the client. You're gonna have to be able to
Mm,
talk to them. You're gonna have to be able to work with them. You're gonna have to be able to
mm,
have a strong back when you get certain emails that are not necessarily the best. But you
okay.
really have to be able to not be so quiet and not be so shy. It really presses you to step out there and talk to people because you need to get stuff done. You have deadlines you need to meet, and the
Mhm.
only way you're gonna get that done is from speaking with people and having good relationships.
Okay. So how do you maneuver that space? In terms of you are naturally a reserved person, as you say, right? How do you maneuver that space to be able to, you know, move out of your comfort zone to be able to do your job effectively?
I think personally for me, being in auditing has definitely pushed me to be more confident and more brave because at the end of the day, being how I was before wasn't helping me to be able to get my job done. And
Mm-hmm.
I was encouraged by that because it kind of forces me to be outside of my box. And so the
Mm-hmm.
the reserved personality now is more so active when it's not necessary. But definitely, if I need to get stuff done, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone, to have a call, to have a
Right, right.
conversation. I have been doing it for 6 years. And so you kind of understand and kind of grow in that ability to not be
Mm-hmm.
afraid and not be so quiet, you know, and speak up and say what you have to say.
Okay, okay. So would you say that in any line of work that someone is in, sometimes they have to put their personality aside in order to get the job done, and that it may not necessarily be that, you know, I have to hold true to my personality in my workplace or in my job, my space of work. I have to be able to move out of that comfort zone to be able to do the job. How do you help someone or encourage someone in that respect? Because a lot of times people will say, oh, I'm in a job that does not fit my personality. This is not my dream job. This is not where I want to be. How do you help or how would you advise somebody, you know, to move out of that space and be able to do their job effectively without letting their personality become a hindrance?
Right. Agree. Definitely that we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible and
Mm-hmm.
to be in a rather in a position where you're going to hold true to who you are and how you are. Is not leaving any room for growth or development, right? we are not
Right.
perfect as human beings, and we're not going to ever be, but we can definitely grow into becoming better individuals and better persons. And the best way to do that is to be able to step outside of the box, not always be comfortable, and doing things for the benefit of your own growth and development. If that means that you have to do a presentation that you've never done before, it's normally someone else that's doing it. Take the risk, you
Right.
know. You have to be able to step out and take those kind of risks. Risk taking is not just for entrepreneurs that are interested in being, you know, business owners.
Right.
It's for employees too. That's how you're gonna grow. That's how you're gonna develop. That's how you're gonna get opportunities come to you when people see that you're not afraid to take on things that are not comfortable. Right. So I would definitely encourage persons to step outside of your own self, and dare to go after something that is not comfortable for you, but will definitely be beneficial for your own development as a professional, as a person.
Okay, I love that. That it's important for us to take risk, and risks are not only assigned to entrepreneurs, but risks are also for employees. I love that. I love that. What I want to find out from you as an auditor, have you ever had to audit a company that you felt was, a bit intimidating because probably it's a big name? You may have the accountant there may be a little bit, off-putting. Have you ever had situations like that? And how did you be able to overcome those?
I've definitely worked with clients that are big names, you know, well known in the space. And so you definitely don't want to come there seemingly incompetent, because they'll run you over, right? And treat you not necessarily the best way. And I've also definitely worked with clients too that need a little bit of help, not necessarily understanding accounting as well. And so there's a lot of hand holding. And so you definitely have to be able to navigate that space being flexible. You have to be able to navigate that space being flexible. For those who need a little help, not having the level of competence for the position that they're in, you have to be patient. You have to not necessarily get frustrated, right? And you have to work with them, because people don't necessarily like for you to show them up, right? That they don't really know what they're doing. And so you have to have that working for you. And then for the big ones, the big clients where, they come and they're just as qualified as you, and they think they know more than you. You have to be able to navigate that as well. One of the things that I knew worked well for me is if I'm having a disagreement in terms of say an accounting treatment between someone there, let's say the CFO, because usually you're working with people at the higher ups, and I'm just a staff there working. They're not going to necessarily agree with your understanding of how the accounting treatment should be treated, right? And so you have to learn at the same time to be respectful, to hear what they have to say, to still express your opinion without being disrespectful, and to kick it upstairs to your bosses. And usually what happens is that they have to come to because you're right? So they have to agree and thereby make the adjustment that you have recommended. But usually it is better received through, let's say, the senior manager or the partner than you. And so when you kick it upstairs, you still get it done, and you don't have that tizzy between them and yourselves. So you have to be flexible for both ends of it.
Okay. Have you ever encountered a situation where the CFO was just so adamant and disrespectful and just dismissed you, right? And how did you deal with something like that?
Communication, definitely communication. Because I've had that before. I've had that before with I believe it was a chief accountant. She was particularly difficult. And it was weird because she's an ex-auditor. So you would expect her to understand why you're asking for what you're asking. But that was just not the case. And I think what worked for me was really having that open communication with my manager about what is happening, so that if the chief accountant would report me, she's fully aware of the situation that is happening.
Right.
And would understand and also give advice along the way as you're going through how can you deal with the situation. So I definitely communicate that to my superiors when I'm having challenges like that, and hear from them, draw from whatever advice they have to give.
Right. Interestingly, that was something I learned years ago in my line of work, where it's important to always communicate and always be able to raise the red flag. And just because you have been raising little red flags along the way, when that big red flag comes up, then it makes your case more plausible and make you look more credible. And so it's very important for communication. I think a lot of times, even in the workplace, that has become a lost art, where a lot of times managers, supervisors, just you name it, from ground level come straight up, don't communicate as often and as effectively. And sometimes when a problem arises, there are bits and pieces of information that was missing. That if it was communicated at the appropriate time, they would have made the problem solving or any problem that came up, easier to smooth over then. If communication was just being done. And so that's a very important point. And even at the back end, what I learned is that it saves you from any undue embarrassment. It saves you, it helps you to look more credible and competent as an individual when you are keeping your superiors in the loop and helping them to understand the processes that you're taking for any project or assignment. And so that's a very, very good point. And I'm really glad that you brought it up, because I think that persons really need to understand that communication is key in any sort of project or task that you're doing, right? Tell me though, Andre, what has really kept you going in this line of work? Has there been any exciting moments that has really made you be like, wow, I am so, I'm so reassured that yes, this is a job for me, that yes, I'm really making a difference. What would be one of that high moment for you?
Right. So I think a reoccurring high moment is always when you have completed the work. And so this is more specific for a public listed entity. You see the financial statements that you would have gone through, reviewed, made their recommendations out there on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website or on their own website, and just see all of the work that you have put in, just being right there. So I think that's definitely always a high. But also I have definitely had moments where I would have identified an issue, a deficiency in their controls or in their process, and that being brought to the directors and them applauding me for identifying it and providing a solution to the problem. I know of one specific in my mind right now. And so I think those key moments of realizing that you are learning and that you do understand what you're doing, and to see people recognize that experience, skill, and that talent in you is always something that is rewarding.
Okay. Usually in these areas of work, being a chief financial officer, an auditor, an accountant, it's always, and I don't know if anybody when they're listening to this think it's the stuffy, mussy office with a lot of papers, and there's always a great old woman or man that back is bending over, and they've been in it so long and they don't want you to tell them anything. For you, and I'm almost sure, don't know your age, but I feel like you don't pass 35 yet, right?
No, no.
Thinking about it, what is it like for you relating to those persons who are more senior, right? And being able to, kind of throw off ideas and get their feedback. Is it an easy space for you? What makes it easy, or is it a difficult space for you? I know sometimes the age difference is always a hurdle, our generation versus the older generation in everything in life, because we
Right.
experience it with our parents, in other sphere. But tell me, in terms of your work, how have you been able to maneuver that? Is it a difficult space or is it an easy space? Tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, so generally, actually in auditing, specifically in auditing, most of the people that you work with are very young, right? They start right after university, so they're probably 22, 23 years old. And
Okay.
they don't normally stay in this space very long. So you'll find that quite a few of your colleagues are in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And even at the partner level, right? They are not, some of them not even 40 yet. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a very young space. And I think it's a very I would say progressive space because it's young.
Okay.
It's very very what do you call my generation? Not remembering it right now. But the generation from 1981 to 1996, born in that
Mm-hmm.
period, right? So we think the same and we understand the same, and so that space is not necessarily so difficult. I think
Mm-hmm.
on the side of working with clients though, where you do find yourself working with the CFOs and the CEOs that are much older, it's a mix. It's a mix. You do have some who are set in their ways and you just have to
Mm-hmm.
be flexible and work around that. And you do have some who are very, very, very welcoming to your opinions and to the way that you think. Um, but I think because of the workspace, the persons that
Right.
are in the job space and that being increasingly overtaken by that same generation. I think
Mm-hmm.
the older sets now are becoming more accepting of how we think and how we behave and
Okay.
how we function. It still exists, but not so much significantly as maybe it was 10 years ago.
Okay. So then you're saying it is more of the younger generation who are auditors. So therefore, you probably encourage somebody coming out of university or high school to go straight into that sort of work. Tell me though, what is the requirements to become an auditor? Like, what does somebody need to do? Somebody who's listening might want to change their job or don't have a clue where they really want to go into, but may be interested in this. What exactly do they need to do?
Okay. So generally, for auditors, you would need a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
I'm more specific in accounting, although times have changed. I've seen them accept people with doing different majors, but accounting definitely do get your foot in better. And it also allows you to adjust more readily to the jargons that are specific to
Okay.
auditing.
Right,
So,
right.
but I mean, let that not stop you. If you don't have
Mhm.
a bachelor's degree, there are other ways. There is an exam called ACCA. You do have persons who start working on that paper. They start from level 1. Once they get to level 2, which is equivalent to a bachelor's degree, they can come into the auditing space. You do
Okay.
have certain firms as well that accept you even without a bachelor's degree, right? Kind of
Mhm.
give you that junior auditor space so that you have the feel, so that you have the understanding. But generally, the space requires you to have a bachelor's degree or an equivalent, in the case doing the ACC
Mhm.
exams up to level 2. But don't let that stop you if it is that you don't have that. Get in the space, get in the well-known professional services firm, the PwC, the KPMG, the EY. Send emails, ask questions, so on and so forth. Get in the space because it's definitely an area that rotates a lot. People leave a lot, right? It has a very
Okay.
high, a very low rather retention rate. So
Uh,
they always need somebody. And I think as long as you're willing, as long as you're hardworking, because it's a job that requires a lot of
mhm.
overtime, yeah, you can definitely get in and get into that field.
Okay. You mentioned low retention rate. Is it low retention rate because the job is not satisfying? I'm just wondering. Because you say it is a very young generation kind of a space.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do it, and you're encouraging persons, but wanting to find out though, when you say low retention rates, just
Mm-hmm.
explain that a little bit. What do you think are some of the possible reasons?
Right. So I guess to give the honest reason, because we just have to be honest here, you do have persons who leave because of the salary. Um,
Okay.
them believing that they are able with their experience, with their qualifications, able to get more
Mm-hmm.
in the market space. Um, people leave, but I think the large or the big reason has to do
Mm-hmm.
with the workload. It is a lot.
Uh,
There's a busy season that starts in January, but for
mm-hmm.
seniors like myself, or well, supervisors, same thing. It starts even earlier than that, because you have to do the planning, start the planning procedures. So you are already working late from, let's say, October, going into the busy
Mm-hmm.
season in January. For staff, however, busy season more gets busy in January, but it gets
Mm-hmm.
really hectic, gets really hectic, and you'll be doing a lot of long hours. There'll be a lot of demand upon you to get deliverables completed on some crazy timelines. And so
Mm-hmm.
weekends is definitely a possibility. Working on public holidays is definitely a possibility,
Uh,
depending on the engagement that you're on. So it definitely is intense, right?
it's
But
into okay.
with that intensity, you do learn, and you learn a lot, and you learn
Mm-hmm.
very quickly. And so in I would say maybe 2 years time, you're ready to be, let's say, a accounts payable supervisor, because you already have
Mm-hmm.
just acquired so much knowledge and so much information. So I think that's the driving force. I think that it's just not necessarily the most sexy job for persons who are starting a family, right? Because of
Right.
the workload and intensity.
Okay, okay. What I want to find out from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a supervisor, right? Tell me like two of the skills that are very important for you as a supervisor. What I find a lot of times is that a lot of young professionals are moving into the space of being middle managers, of being supervisors. And of course, we're not taught this in school. We have no idea what we're doing, and we're just expected to hit the ground running. What would you say is two important skills that you've used as a supervisor that you know that you think would have been of very great value and use to persons who are listening, who are probably in the space of being a supervisor, who will probably move into that promotion, that you really think is important for them?
So the two I would say is first, relationships. It's very
Mm-hmm.
important that you are connected with those who are your subordinates. Very, very important, and to show that you care, not fake care, actually care.
Yes.
I find that staff think of it very important if it is something as simple as they have called in sick,
Mm-hmm.
that the next day when they come in, you at least ask how they're doing before you start
Yeah.
talking about the work. And
Mm-hmm.
they pick up on those small things, right? They pick up on those things and find that you're not necessarily so concerned about them as it is that
Mm-hmm.
you're concerned about the work that they're providing. So I
Right.
think that having that good relationship with your team members
Mm-hmm.
and showing that you care is very, very important. The other thing that I think is very important as a supervisor is always monitor your area that you are responsible for. You just have to do it. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
understand that we should trust our staff and the persons that
Right.
work for us, but you still have to check their work, because you'd never want to be in a situation where you have entrusted or rely on someone to get something done for you to review. And then by the time you
Mm-hmm.
get to your review, they didn't do it, right?
Right.
Because a lot of them are still in the space where they don't understand the power of communication, and that they should communicate rather than
Mm-hmm.
run away from the fact that then they haven't finished the thing on time. I mean, it's better you just come forth and say, listen,
Comfort,
I'm,
right.
I'm not done. I need a little bit more time, than for the supervisor to just realize that nothing is done and this thing needs to get out. So you have to, as a supervisor, just monitor what you're responsible for. Yes, you trust the staff, you're expecting it to be done, but still check in advance so that you know that everything is going well and going good.
Okay, I love that. So trusting the staff, but not trusting them too much. So always checking in, because we have to have in the back of our minds that a lot of people don't communicate and communicate very well, and also to show that you care. Show that you care, and you said not fake care, but really care. And it's the simple things. It's the simple things, and that's so true. That's so true. All right. Tell me, have you been doing any consulting? So been doing work on the side to consult with persons for anything. It may be not necessarily a company, but just individuals. Right.
You know, I've always been encouraged to, or people ask me if I have, and I have not. I have not necessarily done anything outside of. Well, I've helped others, right, for free, but not anything where there's a cost to it or they pay me. I guess that's a space I could get into, because I mean, being an accountant and needing an accountant is gonna always be relevant, right? I don't think IT is gonna push that job out there out of its relevance. Maybe maybe how we account is gonna be different, but definitely finance and accounting will always be important. But yeah, I've not done anything outside. No.
Okay. If persons wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? I don't know if you're on any social media, or if you have an email address that persons could possibly get in touch with you if they want to do any private consultation.
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, Andre Buchanan. So you can definitely check me out there. Shoot me a message or connect with me, and we can have a conversation.
Okay, wonderful. Andre, thank you so much for joining us today. But any last words or encouragement that you want to give to any young professional that is listening? They may not be in accounting, they may not be in financial management or auditing, but any advice you would want to give to someone listening today?
Yes. Pursue your dreams. Pursue your dreams. Never believe that it is impossible. It is possible. Pursue your dreams.
All right. Thank you so much, Andre. And guys, you heard it. Pursue your dreams. And I just want to tell you, don't ever give up. All right.
Yes.
So until next time, this is your DIY professional saying that you can do it, because it's time to become the best version of you. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.